Okay, we're back 2 nights in a row. Intravenous puts me in a good mood, so let's just ride that while it's happening. You think this is gonna be the night we're gonna beat this game in one go? Maybe not, but it's just that much fun, I really don't care. More stuff, I suppose, on my mind. I can elaborate on what we were doing last time, and we can just play the game and see what comes of just enjoying it as we naturally play it, because it's a very fun game. Where's the guard? I want to grab that money. Actually, we'll get this guy out of the way, I think. Douche. Yeah. This game and some adjacent stuff has been on my mind. I've been playing, this for these videos, and also another Slav game has been taking in some of my attention. Not like last couple of days, like last night and tonight, I've been playing Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, if you know what that is. That's an interesting game because it's a kind of like Slavic coalition game made by this team based in Russia with support studios in other places, and what's very interesting is, I bought it to explore Warhammer because that's been interesting me lately. I wanted to see, like specifically, I've been playing all the different games made out of it for a little bit to just see what different people made of it at various points in time. And this one I found particularly weird because it's only kind of like minimally Warhammer as far as it needs to be, and it's more like these Russian guys were like very specifically like turbo fans of like old BioWare. It's like a very typical, like down to very specific characterization and plot beats. It's it's just like an RPG from 1995 to 2005, or like 2007, Mass Effect 1 and Dragon Age Origins, the swan song of this, before Obama kind of hit us with that perfect storm of bad incentives to destroy single-player games in the span of a few years. Which is basically what I mean by video games dying, how that whole thing played out. If you read those RPG Codex threads I was in, you can see my elaboration at length on what I believe happened there, which is basically a lack of respect or like coherent defining of what it means for a game to be kind of artisanal and a self-complete artifact, which is, kind of the necessary minimal condition for it to be artistically justified and worthy of preservation, which ties into what I think about stop killing games. Like, if you're really upset about like even a very elaborately made with a lot of work, like ongoing season-based service game, whatever, like at that point you might as well be mad that the circus closes. And we all like Ross, but he is deeply autistic. He is exactly that kind of person. No value judgment there, I'm just saying that's what's happening. Got some coffee there to keep me going as we do this. But yeah, the other thing that's interesting about Owlcat is that's the guys making Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. Beyond the fact that, like, aesthetically and mechanically they have just, like, revived a kind of, like, slightly modernized Baldur's Gate type thing and made that their business model. They've made a few games successfully as far as I can tell. Like, they also made Pathfinder or something. What's interesting beyond the, like, weird aesthetic cloning is that they also commercially are, they're a, if not Western, like, still fairly West adjacent, or, like, within our shared cultural sphere, still a studio in that whole world, which is trying to, at the same time, actually leverage all of the unique conditions of the 21st century to, again, make it economically viable to make an all-in artisan single-player game of the kind they consider valuable again. And that's kind of the thing, like, you always have to think of how does this become commercially viable. Like, you can't rely on, like, hobbyists to personally subsidize an entire, like, multi-million-dollar production. Like, it's clearly, like, cheap, like, CRPG scale, like, isometric with, like, little fiddly 3D models rather than, like, a full-blown, like, Mass Effect thing where, like, you zoom in and play up close and it looks as good as its fanciest contemporaries. Like, no, this is kind of a game that's made with restraint, but still it aspires to be big, you know, like it's the big game for people who really love this shit and want to feel like there is still a bleeding edge to what they like. And yeah, like how have they gone about making that possible? Their game is made by people based in like Russia and Armenia and wherever the hell else, and all of them working together, I imagine, can work with the fraction of the overhead costs of like BioWare. They can just more directly gather the talent they need rather than accruing dead weight. And it's just an odd situation where by leveraging every weird little commercial edge you get by being based in the second world and wherever else, that's really what a lot of this comes down to, that the few like soulful old school single player games, like the Kingdom Come Deliverance guy, he can afford to make a game cheaper than BioWare and whoever else because jeez. Yeah, the like Russian guys with a knife thing, that's not foolproof. That's what I get for trying to be fancy. But yeah, that's one way that you can kind of get your self-contained all-in artifact game back, but yes, it's weird for several reasons. For one, like we destroyed the infrastructure that made that possible in the first world, and that is, of course, many factors that we cultivated awful consumer habits over a long time. Gamer entitlement is real. We destroyed the talent base of the industry. We failed to foster any kind of respect for like large-scale artisan works as something that we should like actually invest serious effort in. We have like grants and stuff and they actually go to people making video games now, but the organization of that stuff is completely divorced from actually what should be being preserved in those things. Those things are basically like a leftist scam like everything else in our society. Unfortunately, like, in Japan, broadly, their whole economics is like actually based on a human's idea of like, okay, what is actually an economy meant to do? What kinds of things are we meant to be facilitating? If there is like a absurd chasm between intended outcomes and actual outcomes, and they don't have anywhere near as many bad actors as us, like, yeah, measures will be taken, and the average person understands that they have a role to play in that as well. Very good customer base, just broadly at every level. Where we have saboteurs in our system, they have people who are thinking like, okay, what could we arrange, how could we line things up so that the nice things that make it feel like we're living in civilization, not some kind of like cross between a third world bazaar and a crack house. What kind of stuff needs to be happening? What opportunities need to be available? What services? How do we keep that alive? And yeah, we moved in the opposite direction. It really is, unfortunately, like just another point of like decay of first world infrastructure, that it's just not viable to make a goddamn video game that is something other than like a weird optimized, like what would have been like a phone game scam in 2012 is now the average console game in many ways. People think that like I love this stuff, like, no, I'm just saying if you hate it, you need to... It's this constant recurring thing, that the like mode of engagement that forces you to refine your ideas. If you're posting on a place like RPG Codexes, when no one understands you, if you're really determined, you will just find yourself laying out over and over again, here's what you think you're saying, here's what you're actually saying, here's what you think you want, here's what you actually want, here's what you think is going on, here's what's actually going on. And, like, it's just, if I sound like I'm defending these things, I'm just saying what they actually are, and to a lot of people that might be very bewildering. They don't understand, like, is it even worth going into it? I got distracted there for a moment, but I'm doing alright. Is there even more stuff here? I just felt like looking at these side buildings. These levels are so big, there are whole sides to them you can just not pay attention to. Vent that leads into here. You might not get the impression watching me play, but this game, on like your first playthrough when you don't know what you're doing and, it's scary how tough these guys are, it probably is meant to feel more like Splinter Cell, and you kind of develop shark consciousness as you become very good at it and very experienced, and you learn your way around. You aren't really meant to learn the levels, the idea is you're in and out, and I do think the intended experience is that you're meant to be kind of lost in a sprawl as the protagonist, rather than like, even when you're good at the game, the idea is to some extent, I think that you're meant to be disoriented by the amount of open space and opportunities around you. That's why there's like just an excess of everything in this game. There is so much stuff that you can get lost and confused, which is perfectly good. But anyway, what was I saying? I was saying a lot of things. Improvisator, the classic. We were saying that yes, the industry has really fallen apart, and you can kind of, by balancing what little consumer goodwill is left, pricing things up a bit and hoping that people will buy DLCs and so on for a, what, less than what it cost you to make the goddamn things. Owlcat, or whatever they're called, Owlbear, they put DLCs into the 40k Rogue Trader, which I do not want because it already seems to be way longer than I'm interested in. We'll see, I might play the first act and then see if I can be bothered still going with that damn thing. But anyway, what was I saying? Yes, more likely what's going to happen, I think this will happen even in Japan, where they haven't torched everything on purpose, basically, is that what's going to happen is, as the idea of like what video games are becomes increasingly like done, and even with guys like me being like banned from the whole goddamn internet basically and not allowed to lay this out for people, broadly a canon has emerged. People know what the big important video games are, they know what the good ones are, they can broadly break them down into movements, important moments, and under the weight of all of that history, what we're probably going to see is, due to the various complexities of video games, it's unfortunately harder to make one than a movie. I think we're just going to see increasingly, like, a treading water of the mainstream industry at best. Like, the Japanese industry, I kind of said, I think is going to kind of just go into a more conservative posture, whereas, like, I think I was writing this in the comments. That's right, that's where I was saying the stuff about, like, New Hollywood and such in the comments section. That, like, yes, I think Hideo Kojima identifies with Tom Cruise and sees a similar thing going on between cinema and video games, where kind of the medium is pushed to a brink, it's hit a kind of limit and isn't sure what it can do from now on. But yes, Kojima and Tom Cruise are both kind of saying, like, no, we're not done, we're gonna keep going, it's gonna be bigger and better, you didn't think we could do that, we're still gonna do it. And Kojima says, like, I'm gonna scan Léa Seydoux's feet, or whatever the hell it is he's doing, and Tom Cruise says, I'm gonna dangle off of an airplane for an hour to film this scene, and yeah, these aren't exactly signs of health, I think. It's more like these guys know where we're at and they're responding to that. And I do think that, like, yeah, the will is there and they're able to go on these big gambles, but, like, yeah, it's really, they can only do that stuff because they're them. Like, I can't exactly follow Tom Cruise's example, like, yeah, you showed me it's still possible, Tom. Me and my friends are gonna get a few $100 million together and make a movie just like you showed us. Gee, that guy's tough. Him again. We're alive. Quick delay on that story about Tom Cruise and Hideo Kojima because I'm kind of on the brink of death here. There we go. Back under control, I think. Pick this lock. Flip the switch. Break it. This is fun. That story's gonna have to wait while I enjoy myself here. Whoop. I thought I had broken them for a second, gotten very clever, and then they just moved around me. This game is pretty good at that. They're very simple, but, you know, the whole game is simple. It's top-down. They're smart enough to do basically anything they need to make the game feel like it's working. I probably killed half the level now. That's still a good amount. Yeah, just the basic shotgun, it's pretty great. A lot of people probably beat both games without ever trying these things. Move around this way again. Just keep them guessing. Who else have we got out here? This is only the second level and I've made such a goddamn mess. Oh well. But yes, what was I saying? I'm finally getting around back to this game. I swear the original prompting thought was about this, that yes, I think increasingly we're going to get Roman Globenkovs and Doe Kuromoris, and they're kind of our new Hollywood as much as we can get one. Like, this game to me is very new Hollywood. Like, even aesthetically, it's kind of a bastard great-grand-nephew of Brian De Palma, the, like, weird electronic kitschy noise and, like, weird nerd man pathos. Like, rather than De Palma's, like, voyeur grind set, this game is more like a angry sort of, you know, what's the movie Death Wish kind of thing, but still it's kind of a similar place of, like, you know, it's very much just in every way imaginable a product of the mind of a nerd, and one who is based in both media and new technology. Like, Brian De Palma's whole existence is kind of defined by access to cameras. Like, his life story, he was doing weird shit with cameras as a teenager. Like, that's why in Dressed to Kill, there's the black-haired teenager character who's this, like, weird voyeur. That's basically young De Palma in a movie. That's the closest he came to directly being there. Though you could also say that the film director character in Body Double is Brian De Palma himself, and the protagonist, of course, the, like, neurotic nerd with troubles actualizing his existence, is also Brian De Palma. Oh, we're $100 off buying the P90, which would have been very entertaining. What else have we got in here? A Mac-10? That thing costs a lot, but yeah, a submachine gun with 45, that's pretty interesting. Let's keep going with the Remington. I'm having fun with this thing. Let's not buy anything. If we survive this, we'll buy some real shit. But yes, what's happening is, I think there is a growing awareness that the industry can kind of, at most, stabilize, and beyond that it will just kind of be, you know, you bring together what you can. There is no longer kind of the economic stability and reliability that allows you to form the kind of sufficiently robust network and business operation to make an all-in artifact game, let alone, like, a lot of people incentivized to do that to the point you can have, like, a flowing, moving culture which was required to, like, launch and move these consoles in the 2000s. You can't have, like, dozens of different organizations of guys making games for the PlayStation 2 in America anymore. Like, at most, across various, like, Discord servers, you will have, like, every couple of years, a few people will have attempted their kind of Omori-style operations. But, you know, how many of these people have the charisma and sheer will of Lord Omocat to just, like, rally these people, work them to burnout and break them and discard them? That might sound negative, but I'm completely sincere. I think Omocat is, like, the coolest person alive. But yeah, the point I'm making there is that, like, yes, like, Omocat had to, like, have neurotics willing to, like, break themselves because they believed in the vision, whereas, like, yeah, a healthy culture doesn't do that and shouldn't really rely on that, and it's kind of a recurring point that frustrates me talking to people on, like, RPG codex of, like, oh, well, you know, they're probably greedy. This is good. It means only people who really care will be getting into it. It's just like, Jesus, man, how many of the great artists of the 20th century, the age of, like, commercialized and complex, highly industrialized art, how many of those guys were only ultimately there because it was economically viable for them? Like, Lucio Fulci, off the top of my head, a filmmaker I really, really like, the Italian who gave us various excellent movies, many of which were influential on video games like Zombie 2. You know, very influential horror filmmaker and genuinely brilliant guy. He went to medical school and was like ready to start working as a doctor, and then he, I don't know, just because, you know, film inherently cheaper, Italy, good, very well established and well oiled machine of a filmmaking culture. They could get a lot done, very diverse cinema culture and very open as well. It wasn't so like walls thrown up in every direction. This guy, he was a medical student, but he was able to show up and have a chance, and he thought, well, you know, maybe before I go into this boring, miserable grind of a life as a doctor, I can check this out. Maybe I can try to become a filmmaker. And yeah, if it just cost like 100 times as much to do that, none of the like infrastructure was there and waiting for you. You had to build it yourself. Is there any chance of that happening? I think it's very obvious that just like, no, instead of becoming one of the like defining visionary horror filmmakers of the 20th century, instead Lucio Fulci just becomes this like miserable, unhappy doctor whose patients are afraid of him. And that's just kind of, even then, that's too optimistic a story for what awaits most people in the 21st century. Like, no, the 21st century version of Fulci isn't a guy weighing up becoming a doctor or becoming a film director. It's a guy who's like completely depressed and burned out on life basically, and is thinking, okay, so do I try to rally the Discord and we make a video game, we make our own Omori, or do I just fucking give in to the voices and, you know, I don't even think I'm legally allowed to finish that sentence on YouTube anymore, who knows at this point. But I hope you get the point that, like, yes, commercial opportunities, culture, incentives, so much of this, like, the term I've used a few times in discussions on RPG Codex is social infrastructure, and yeah, we really took it for granted that, like, yeah, a market of, like, people lined up and eager to buy, like, day one any big release is, like, we mock them as the stupid people now because the big releases that remain basically get nothing gratifying out of, for anybody, out of the fact they're still coming, like, still vestigially loyal. But yeah, back in the day, people who had, like, an artifact vision, an idea of a game with a start, middle, and end that could, you know, last and be meaningfully contemplated years down the line, they had that, like, audience that's now just stuck playing, like, FIFA and Destiny. And that was really a beautiful cultural arrangement that nobody appreciated, which kind of fueled basically every worthwhile thing that happened in Western video games. Oh, is that a Desert Eagle on that table? It might be, I don't remember. Side objective. We're going to go get that. Turn around, you prick. Hata! Ooh, I thought I missed that. Don't forget my knife. Turn that off. And is this a... Yes, it is. .50 Action Express. Hell yes. We'll fire this at least once before the level's over, don't worry. What a fun game. There's just a Desert Eagle in the 3rd level and you can miss it super easy because this thing is just fucking gigantic. Is there any money around here as well? I want to buy meme guns. There's money. Whoop. Come on, what do you got? Did you see the way his head exploded? That's awesome. And you come with me. Now, I used that silenced MK23 to get through this part last time. This part is a bit awkward, just the way 2 guards are lined up in there. Oh, I forgot my knife. That's important. Or I could just, you know, use the goddamn guns I brought. But no, I'm trying to be a professional right now so I can frame this intelligent discussion I'm having. But yes, we have just critically degraded everything at this point, and you know, I have my own way of talking about everything, but one of my biggest contributions here, I think, is this idea, the one I'm proud of, is social infrastructure, commercial infrastructure, customer-based socialization, whatever you want to call it, that is crippled, and, you know, the ease with which you can form a functioning company in America or the first world in general is really just, like, miserable. Like, in Australia, you read about every studio over here, it's either basically an Omori Discord operation, like my understanding is that what's the 2D bug Dark Souls game called, those guys? They were an Australian thing, and my understanding is that that's just like a few guys who basically just had to grind on their computers until they had a finished thing, and that happened to sell really well, so they're relatively established, but of course, you know, this isn't like Japan 30 years ago. They aren't From Software. They don't get to leap from, like, their initial money they saved doing normal work into a first game King's Field, and then, like, in 30 years that Australia is going to have this company capable of making something like Elden Ring. More likely, they're just going to make another, like, 2D Omori Vania-born, like low-budget 2D limited thing, and that'll just be where they stay, because the transition to 3D is so expensive, and there's no, like, cultural wave that they can ride where, like, everyone's going to just auto-buy a PS2 game, and there's all this money flying around. I just really want to impress upon you the idea of, like, just massive developments of new developers are basically not viable for various reasons, just very unlikely to happen anymore, and you basically needed that happening at scale to have a video game industry rather than, like, a new neat video game coming out every now and then, which is not the sharpest way of putting it, but I think it's actually me, like, finally getting to what I was trying to say this whole time, which is that, yeah, the video games are dead, but that doesn't mean nothing new will come out. It means that we've gone from industry to a cool thing will come out now and then. This is bad. Reload. Let's use this. I want to see if I can... Oh, he fell over. As you can see, night vision is doing some heavy work for me here. They're a bit confused. As is this wall. Well, those accomplished a lot, but it was funny. Oh, what I can do is I can fire over it into them. And I cooked a body. How grisly. Whoop. Okay, that went pretty well. But yes, basically, if I want to sum up what has happened to video games, we went from a true, like, industry and collective culture to basically a history which, if individual people want to engage with, they can, and what all of those individual efforts to engage with will amount to is basically a cool thing coming out every now and then, which will probably be very heavily informed by the past, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing because, yeah, again, this game that I'm playing right now is very obviously, like, super informed by the history of video games and the history of culture in general, and Roman Globenkov, our man, he didn't have a... You know, he didn't form a studio and there was no infrastructure, no, like, ongoing series of projects in his country as far as I know he could plug himself into. My understanding is that the kind of culture in Europe right now is that big studios run by Ubisoft and whoever just kind of vacuum people in from the smaller companies, so I suppose if he wanted to work at one of the few big studios left, he could have moved to Germany or something, and then... or Sweden, and then what happens, I guess the results are kind of disappointing. You get worked on some, like, season-based multiplayer lobby shooter, enjoy making the DLC for Deep Rock Galactic or something. 1400 money found, pretty good. But yeah, if that doesn't sound gratifying to you, basically, it's not Japan in the PS3 era. You can't bounce between 100 different studios. You basically have to make it your own from zero, and I don't see how we hit the critical mass at which, like, any new person who wants to make a game is not also, unfortunately, making it themselves from zero. Like, the infrastructure required to just, like, teach skills to and provide a platform for not necessarily the most profitable things, but things which are, you know, culturally valuable and gratifying long-term, good for the health of your culture and people. To build that back up after the damage that has been done over the last, like, 20 years especially was just, like, almost unimaginable. Like, we would be starting from, like, less than what video games started with in the beginning. We have the history of video games to build on, but that's, again, double-edged. It's just a lot to take in. I hope I've brought some... Does the idea of video games being dead make sense to you now? Leave me a comment saying whether or not I've elaborated well. I'm pleased with how some of those thoughts came out, and that was a pretty fun playthrough of that level, I reckon. Let's get that Desert Eagle out. We're gonna use that this run. Look at this abomination. Can you get a silencer for it? I don't think we will. If anything, we'll get a compensator, make it even more evil. But our main gun, we're just flush with money. I don't think we'll buy an assault rifle, that's too conventional. We're going to get the P90, which I can get because I gave extra money to this man because I think he's cool. And the infrared laser pointer, so it's really evil. You can only get a few upgrades for the P90 because it's an autistic alien gun which doesn't share parts with anything else, but its stats are so good that doesn't matter. Its real biggest downside is probably that you're not getting any more 5.7 ammo anywhere. The only way you'll really get more is if you bring along the 5.7 pistol as well. Subsonic Action Express, no thanks. But we will take a custom grip. Glow sights. We can get the... Can we get the magazine and the magwell? No, we can't. Let's just get the magwell. There we go. And... compensator is 250. That might be fun, but... Ooh, wait, I can afford that. Oh, you need a... Hang on, I'm retarded. Do you need a, Oh, I need a threaded barrel, which I can't afford. Oh well. Next time if I make it. And we can't afford anything else, but we're looking pretty swagged out. Ooh, look at this thing. Also, if you turn the lights off, you get the laser so you can aim better. This will be very mean. Yeah, compare this to the, like, little junk shotgun I had. Yeah, this should be entertaining. Now, what was I saying as well? That, yes, in Japan the situation is less dire and they are actually consciously working to fix it because, as I said, like everywhere where we have like an insane person, an idiot, or a saboteur, they have someone who is generally like actually concerned and thoughtful a lot of the time. You know, like general rules of institutional structure and what kind of person ends up where are always going to be true to some extent. Like, I'm sure lots of very good people get burned all the time in Japan, but, like, it's very obvious that Nintendo is aware of some of the stuff that I'm talking about, that, like, yes, you see the guys working for the big company, the biggest names, like Shigeru Miyamoto, saying stuff like, yeah, the opportunities that got me into this industry just kind of don't exist anymore, and that's a bit concerning, actually. Which is a very nice thing to see, and there is very obviously, like, deliberate efforts going on all over the industry to try to, like, basically train people for leadership and give new ideas a chance to be realized. And, like, for example, one of the most lucrative ideas of the last however many years in gaming, the Hidetaka Miyazaki, like, From formula, really both of them. He made Armored Core fast, and he made King's Field about rolling around on the ground. Both of those turned out to be like bajillion-dollar ideas and very culturally strong, robust, long-standing, very cool, very aesthetically interesting. That's a whole class of experience where, like, From was a settled company when he showed up, and he eventually ended up basically creatively in charge, which is impressive. Now that started a while back, but still, like, other people are directing From games, and they have, like, a second team, which is a whole other spread of people who are gaining experience as they go. That's a very valuable way to run things, and, like, at Nintendo, they're trying to, like, put guys under the age of 70 in charge of things so that, you know, when the boomers who made the golden age die, it's not just, you know, they don't want it to be the deluge after them. They want to create something that is actually strong enough to, like, stand and continue making new things. But yes, again, they have that problem that you basically can't make it from zero. Like, you can't make a new Nintendo, but at the very least you can show up at Nintendo as a new person, and maybe it's harder to get in than in Shigeru Miyamoto's day. It can't just be like, oh, your uncle knows someone and he puts in a good word for you. But, you know, they understand the problems facing young people and how you have to actually put work into human turnover so as to not just have, like, a ghost town once the original generation are gone. And they're not going to have that. They're going to have a maintained system, which is different to the new growth that built this industry, but it's still something. It would still be valuable, I believe. And at the same time, they have also got this situation we made. Increasingly, they have, perhaps out of response to this same whole class of thing, they have a new emerging kind of indie culture themselves, which is producing a lot of cool stuff. Like, who is the Japanese Roman Globenkov? You could say that it's a guy like Doe Kuramori, who is, again, like, informed very heavily by the history of the medium, and he had a dream. He didn't want to be like one of 500 guys making, you know, like, a new character for Uma Musume or some giant ongoing production. He wanted to, like, no, the coolest video games were made when it was like a few guys realizing some very idiosyncratic idea. I can't make the Japanese Bungie, but I can, you know, computers are good, I have the Unreal Engine, I can do it all myself, and, you know, damn it, he did it. Now, do we take that garage door, kill a few guys quickly and try to rush through, or do we try to actually sneak through? Well, it's dark over here, we'll try. How many guys do I have to quietly kill to get out of here? But yes, over in the West we have basically commercial non-viability of new industry, and the old industry is ruined by ideological capture. You know who those bad ideological actors are, of course. And at the same time, there is the problem of yes, ideological capture, and just the fact that they are terribly run and, like, not attractive to new talent because of the ideological factor compounding every other problem, of course. Just a terribly run operation, so, like, effectively our big industry doesn't even exist. It can't just sail on steadily as it always has, like the Japanese machines will. It really is, like, basically over for big Western gaming, barring some kind of, like, ideological purging, counter-purge, really, of these industries, because, you know, the people who have ruined them are not the ones who made them. Ooh, can I just keep one at a timing this? It's very dicey, but I think I can. Uh-oh. Here we go, infrared light, silenced P90. This emergency is exactly what this gun is for. And they don't know I'm over here. That's how you play Intravenous. And here's the cutscene we can't skip. Hello, friend of Cantbot. But yeah, like big Western gaming, it's just not gonna do anything that anyone will really be interested in for a very long time, I think, unless, I don't know, we make some viral Twitter wave which gets Elon to reform Doge and he uses it to purge the entertainment industry. I don't know, I can dream. That's the kind of thing that the current government was basically mandated to do exactly that kind of thing, but it feels like a pipe dream just because we know that unfortunately the right people are not in charge, the ones who know what's going on, the ones who are sharp enough and fast enough to, you know, dance with these people and take them out. An operator who could do that, I don't really know what that would look like. Some guy like me, but more IRL functional, just being given a mandate by Trump, here's your orders, save video games. Every company reduced to like 2005 demographics so they can actually make a video game again. That's a fun rating you can get, Infantryman. That's basically for just running around with a gun shooting people. But yeah, I used my pay-to-win DLC weapon, which I earned, thank you, by not spending money for like the first 3 levels, and now I'm a goddamn killing machine. Now I could swag out that Desert Eagle, or I could get a more functional sidearm, because this thing is basically done. We sank like $7,000 into that, now it's a finished gun. And basically to accompany it, we can swag out the Desert Eagle, or we can use the 5.7, which is Sam Fisher's gun in Splinter Cell, I believe. Interestingly, apparently, pardon me, in the game's files and some of like guards carry it, there's a Beretta M9, and that was gonna be his gun, and I don't know how it came to be, but yeah, like during development, like you can see in beta footage that Sam Fisher's gun used to be his gun used to be the Beretta M9 with a silencer, like a pretty standard American military thing, and then I don't know if like someone saw a certain movie or something, but yeah, they changed it mid-development and they put in the FN57, which was a relatively new gun at the time, I believe. I don't remember when exactly this thing was made. But yeah, very cool gun. It doesn't have the silencer yet like in Splinter Cell, but yeah, just the feedback. It's amazing in such a simple game how like different weapons manage to feel so like genuinely different. Like yes, this and the Desert Eagle, like the difference is maybe not quite Tarkov, but it's pretty goddamn impressive considering I'm just using like point and click with the mouse. They can't like show me the model in first person recoiling all over the place and stuff. But it just feels awesome. Again, like, if you don't own this game and you're watching this video, like, please, like, I'm sure it might be fun to watch me mess around in this, but experiencing these games end to end is just so fantastic. Like, I endorse it so strongly. And yes, the way to do it is you buy Intravenous 2 with the Intravenous 1 DLC. That might sound weird, but that's basically how he updated the first game. Which, as I was saying in the last video, is a business model I actually, like, 110% recommend and endorse, because it avoided one of the like biggest indie pitfalls of just like getting stuck in forever dev and like wanting to start again because the tech was imperfect. Like, no, just draw the line, kill your children, just get a fucking game done, please. Hey, we can have fun with this breaker box. I don't know if this will necessarily help me that much in getting back in, let's see. Is that guy gonna come outside now? Come on, check the box. And let's get this guy too, just to be thorough. There are allegedly people who played this entire game without knowing how good the knife is for just like doing that. A lot of people, I think, the game kind of baits you with the, like, lame Metal Gear Solid, like, manual crank-it stealth pistol. Like, no, the throwing knife does that job and gives you a pistol slot for a real gun. And if you're like me, you play, like, all-in death runs, then, yeah, having a pistol that's good is actually, like, a matter of life or death. Yep, I guess this is gonna be one of those levels. Compromising material, sure, that's a form of money. Is there a light switch for this room? Oh, it's outside. Ooh, that was a bit dicey. I don't have a plan right now, but so far this isn't too bad. I may just clear this whole compound because the P90 is a bit of a beast, as you can see. Yeah, it's a bit unfair, but this is like an optimal situation I've set up with a maximally customized gun. You know, play this game yourself if you think I'm making it easy. Let's say you do this. And yes, the guards do have radios. Especially that's something I like, that like we start out fighting hobos, and as we're fighting more like proper private security, then they will start doing things like talking on walkie-talkies, recognizing that a patrol is missing, and so on. Gee, that was rough. I need to find a spot to heal. See, this game does not forgive. My armor is, you can see the second blue health bar. That thing's like at 0. It's nice now I can relax into the game. I feel like I got a decent statement out on stop killing games. Basically, what do I mean by games are dead? That much is established, now I can just play the game. The primary subject of this video is out. And yeah, you tell me how I did. Grade me when this is over. I'm gonna just check what we're recording now. Yep, might have been nice to do that right when I started, but whatever. Still got a decent number of bullets left. Oh, there's an assault rifle down there, that's right. I'll use all of this and then go get that. Oh my fucking god. Yeah, we're gonna have to wait in here for a little while, I think. Music is cool, isn't it? Very hardcore. I haven't commented on that yet, but I do like this. It's not like derivative of Hotline Miami. It is very much its own thing. It's more Slavic in its sensibilities, I think. It's more like cool movie made after Drive about a guy who is cool and trendy and walks in the dark, is literally you, defends orphans from gangsters or something. I don't know. I just feel like there's a very specific, like, Slavic second world idea of cool, which this game is channeling. And I don't mean to make fun of that, I think it's very entertaining, very well realized. We'll keep the pistol, but maybe we'll, I don't know, just fire a bit more of this, then grab an AR. Yeah, let's wrap up this gun. Oh, I had to reload it. Armor won't turn you into an indestructible juggernaut, I've noticed. Yeah, I could have played that a bit better, but, you know, I just wanted to waste all the P90's bullets and didn't realize how much danger I was running into. Oh well, silly play, silly play. But that was a pretty good run. The P90 was a funny idea. If I wanted to try hard the game, I might use that every time, but honestly, I still haven't tried a lot of the guns in this game, and I could still find things that are better, because, yeah, like, I talk to different people and they all have their own ways of playing this game, which I suppose is a sign that it's very good and very interesting, and the different ways are actually a lot more different. Like, I really think that a lot of games that are praised for this, it's kind of overdone. Like, there's really, like, Deus Ex kind of has stealth archer syndrome, where, like, yeah, you just kind of, like, abuse broken AI, the game isn't difficult, and it's just like, which way do you get around a locked door? a more robust system of weird interactions like Metal Gear Solid 5 or this will bring that out a lot better. And, you know, what is like the big old school, like, as far as the immersive sims go, were any of them really good at this, in my opinion? Maybe not. Like, I've gotten into this thing before with someone on 4chan about whether or not Thief is really more dynamic than, like, The Legend of Zelda, and I kind of think no. At the same time, I just never really liked Thief. I don't know, it's one of those games I got off on the wrong foot with. That's the last thought I have for the moment, but let's just go to the first level, punch one guy, and we'll call that the end of the video. How's that sound? Yeah, I got the main thought I wanted to get out, and I feel pretty good. We'll knock out this guy, and that'll be the end of it. I do love this game. So yeah, let me know what you think of my kind of video games as a kind of ongoing industry, whatever, are kind of finished. We can elaborate more on that thought in the future if you'd like. Maybe even if you guys really whip me hard, I can make a video on SKG before that becomes irrelevant. How many other, like, boats have I missed? I could make a video about the Marathon reboot because I am one of, like, 5 people on the planet who still sincerely likes Marathon. The original one, that is. And that whole controversy was silly. Every gaming controversy is silly. I could chase them, but I would have to edit videos to do that. You know how it is. I'm the improvisator. I'm not very good at planning. But yeah, this was another fun session, and I hope you enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed making it once I got into this, so I'm in a good mood right now. Leave comments. Give me something to engage with so I keep coming back. Thank you.